Okay, now if you're going to make a green smoothie, you can use any kinds of greens. I had these left over and I'm a little low on my organic kale. So I'm going to use some of this baby romaine because I don't like it as much in my salads as I like the crunchy adult romaine. But this was what we had, and so what I'm going to do so it doesn't go bad, because they tend to go bad quickly, is I'm going to use some of this, and then I'm going to use my organic blueberries and I don't have much in the form of mango chunks today, and I have no banana, so I might go dig out a frozen banana, because that's a really good thing to do with your bananas when they're going bad, is just chop them up, lay them out on some wax paper on a cookie sheet or some small pan or plate, put them in the freezer for a little bit until they are not sticky anymore. You know, you could leave them for an hour or two, and then put them inside of a plastic bag so you can store them and keep them good. Now, one tip I use when I'm making these is I always have a plate to put my measuring utensils on, because I'm busy and I don't want to put them on my dirty tabletop here. So I want to be able to keep things nice and clean. And I use this one for the flaxseed, which I'm out of today, unfortunately. I use a tablespoon of that. And it helps, the fat helps make all of the nutrients more absorbable. And I also eat a couple of these walnuts. I eat these with my fruit and vegetables all throughout the day for better absorption, and they're also a nice little treat. You can use protein. My husband likes this Pro Optimal Whey by Dr. Mercola. We like it because it's raw, and it's we don't like to eat anything cooked during the day. And this one I bought the other day because we were out of that, and I'm going to transition over to a more vegan lifestyle, so I got this because it was the only thing available, and it too is raw and non-GMO, very important, and also organic. 90% organic. It's got a couple of things in there you can't get organic, like salt. Okay, I'm not sure what this is going to taste like, but this is not a recommendation until I give you the thumbs up on this. But there is another one that I do like, which is organic food bar. I don't like to use too much protein because I want to keep my methionine content and my branched chain amino acids at a lower content, for the sake of, they think that there's a connection between too many branched chain amino acids and diabetes, because when they cut people's stomach, they get healed immediately of diabetes, and so their insulin resistance goes away. So another approach, instead of getting surgery, is to reduce your branched chain amino acids to a minimum, and you're going to do that if you're vegan or vegetarian, especially if you're vegan. And but sometimes these companies, the protein companies, like to pump up the amount of branched chain amino acids, because for the longest time that was really important to, and still is important to, those who are actually building muscle, like weightlifting and so forth. And if they can use it, and that's a good thing, that's all more the power to them. But I wish they wouldn't pump them up specially for that reason. But I guess the market, that's what the market demands. So I'm going to go ahead and make this. The first thing we want to do is put the leafy greens in with about 10 ounces of water, which is a little over a cup, and you might end up adding more. But I like to start out with less, and then, every smoothie is different. And then you can kind of see how lumpy and chunky it is. You want to make it smoother, you add a little more water. I don't like watery smoothies, so that's where I caution you, because you won't like it either, probably. The nice thing about powders like this, especially chocolate or strawberry or whatever, is that they add some sweetness. And if I don't have a banana today, I'm going to definitely use this, because that will add some thickness and smoothness and sweetness to it, especially the whey proteins, which are And I'd be really careful with those because there's a lot of lead being found in about 8 out of 14 of the ones tested. I would trust Dr. Mercola because he's very good. He has this specially made, and it's from grass-fed cows. So I don't worry about that. However, so I don't overdo it. I'm going to probably use half of a scoop of this protein as I would with this one. And I love the chocolate. You would think that was weird to put with greens, but it actually comes out nice. This one's vanilla because that's the only one they had. So unfortunately, I've let these sit out a little while, so they're getting kind of soft. But you do like to have that nice flavor and consistency that the frozen things give you. So I'm going to use most all of this, probably all of it, or half of it, so I can get more of these used. So like I said, put the water in first, then since I don't have a way to hold this while you see me putting them in there, I'm going to have to turn it off and then come back and let you see them mix up. But if you don't put the greens in first and mix them up with the water, you'll have problems with the greens floating around. So that's the best way to do it. Okay, just so you know, in case you've never seen kale that comes out of a bag like this all chopped up, that really helps. And we do use the stems. It comes with the stems attached, which is a good thing. Because kale is like collard greens, they have really thick stems. And most people, before they eat the leaves, they de-stem it. But the nice thing about this is you can actually, you don't even notice the stems. So I'm going to put this in, and that's about my third cup, and all that's left over is this little bit. And I'm going to use it because I usually do about 3 cups, but 4 cups might be nice because I'm using it up. The other stuff that I had was not good. The baby leaves, the baby romaine leaves, because they don't last as long as crunchy lettuce or this particular type of thing. Kale, you'll find really stays good, not fresh, stays good for a really long time. And so that's one nice thing about it. It'll last you, a week or 2 in your refrigerator. Okay, I'm going to probably use about half of this bottle, but I'm going to start out maybe with a little less. Like I said, I like to add it in later. Okay, now you're going to get to see how it works with the water. Put my top on, hit my on button, and as you can see, it's doing its job. So now you know how that looks. Nice and green and leafy. It looks wonderful. It's good and cut up. And you don't have to do it for much more than that amount of time because you're not going to even notice it in there. But if you're a little nervous, if you're new and you're afraid of stems and things being chunky pieces in your mouth, you're not going to have to worry about it. But go ahead and run it a little longer. Now, I can already tell you it's probably not going to be enough water for everything. But like I said, it all depends on how many other fruits I have. I'm going to have to wash this because as I was doing the camera, I forgot and didn't put it in my plate. So I'm going to have to go for just a second to do that. Okay, I'm glad I did that because even if I washed this every single day or twice or 3 times a day, I would never feel that this was as clean as something that had been immersed in water and washed thoroughly in hot water. So, especially if people eat meat and chicken and things like that, you're almost always going to get some salmonella. Okay, this bag's almost out, my mango chunks, and these are okay if you don't want to buy everything organic. It's melting in there. So that's what they look like when they're almost partly melted. And so I'm just going to pour that in here. And then whenever you use blueberries, it's going to make your green smoothie black because it's just the way blueberries are. Now, if I just did the mango chunks and banana, it would be beautiful. It would be a bright, beautiful green. Okay, I gotta lay this down so I can get this in. Normally I would use, to save money, you might do a half a cup of these because they're organic and they're about $7 for 2 pounds. But because I don't have any bananas or enough mango chunks, I'm going to probably put about a cup and a half all together. Okay, so that's what my beautiful mixture looks like. Ah, lovely. And so we have the layers of green and the layers of blue and the layers of yellow. Now, I'm going to go check and see if I have any bananas that I can put in there. Unfortunately, there's one thing with freezing bananas, is because they don't break down as good in here. So I probably should have put those in first so that they could have gotten in, you know, good and squished up. And then when I added the heavier weight to it, that would have helped, you know, sort of force them into being broken up. Okay, I found my bag. As you can see, after a while they kind of get kind of brownish. So I'm going to stick them a few in here just for sweetness, natural sweetness. And I'm not going to put a whole bunch in there. And then we're going to put the top on here, and I might have to stir it just to get that down a little further. Only because it's bananas. Bananas like to be special. Okay, see how black it's getting? Now the reason I did that was so you could see there's not enough water for all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and add some water. I never take a whole bottle. But see, that'll put it under the water a little bit better. And you see how much I'm left with. I hope I'm not regretting that. If it's too watery, I'll definitely use some vanilla powder. It's working down on the bottom. So you can see I'm going to need to use a spoon. Just be careful that you don't accidentally turn it on. See if I can do this left-handed. Because my left hand is dirty and I don't want to touch my camera. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm using one hand to do all of this without having my tripod is difficult because I turned off the camera. Okay, so we're going to poke some of that stuff down a little bit. Normally this doesn't happen, but I wanted you to see all the possible problems you might have. Looks icky. Okay, but it's delicious and fresh, and it's wonderful. Okay, now it's nice and creamy with a little bit of wateriness. Not too bad. I would drink that if normally. And I only tasted it because I wanted to feel the consistency and I wanted to know if I needed a little sweetness in there. And it really is sweet enough with what I did. Normally I would know exactly how it's going to taste because I have a ratio that I always follow. But when you run out of things, you end up being a little skeptical that it might taste good. So I'm going to put about a half of this powder in here because I've never tried it before. I don't want to completely ruin the thing. And like I said, I don't need a whole one. You might. It depends on how many other things you eat. If you don't eat enough calories and you're vegan, you might need that whole thing. Let's let it go. You can see it changed into a lighter purple instead of a black with that little bit of, you know, like you're mixing paints, okay? So I have a pint jar here, which is half of a quart. And I will usually, whoops, one thing I want to warn you about is if you wash these, if you just rinse these at the end and reuse them the next day without totally washing them, which is convenient, I mean, because it doesn't really stick and get germy. You could do that a couple of days. I would always wash it after 2 or 3. But I use hot water. Anyway, use cold water to rinse it out first, and then use hot water to give it its final rinse, and then you don't have to wash the whole thing. Anyway, I put this, a paper towel or towel of some sort, at the bottom, because what tends to happen is that inside of this little black cup, it fills up with water, and that kind of grosses me out to have leftover water pour into my cup. So I started to see that happening. So I'm going to have to pour this with 2 hands without showing you how it looks, but I'll pick it up when I'm done. So that gives me a half a pint, and there's plenty of food in there. And as you can see, I've got a little bit left over, not very much. So it's really important to drink this slowly to to leave you feeling full. So that if you are on a diet and care, you know, most of us would just gulp it down and just eat to our heart's content through the day if we were not dieting. But if you want to make this leave you full for a couple of hours or 3 hours before you have to eat another banana or something, just eat it slowly and you'll feel full, okay? I mean, I don't mean let it melt and get icky. There's nothing worse. If you're just starting out with these, just gulp them down, because nothing worse than having it sit there and get kind of towards the end and not have that icy goodness and creaminess to it that it used to have. But I kind of know my timeline, and I'll gulp down that last little part, no problem. Of course, remember, if you didn't have any flax like I didn't today, eat one of your walnuts or eat something with fat in it so that you'll get to use all of this. And it's even better to drink a little bit of vinegar, a tablespoon of vinegar at least a half an hour, or if you've forgotten to, right before you take this in, so that your stomach will have the acid necessary to use all of these precious vitamins. Hope I've been a help. Like, subscribe, and share these videos.